just grooving, man. Just grooving to it. Haven't heard
Mm-hmm.
that one in
Can't
a
help
little
it.
bit. It's a catchy tune. What's up, Nerfers? Welcome to the N.A.P. Welcome back to the N.A.P. Hopefully, and for those of you who are watching us on blah, 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 those of you who are watching us on Twitch, welcome to the N.A.P. for the first time. Appreciate you jumping in with us. Josh, how are we doing today?
We're doing, bud. We're doing. It's a Monday. It's the first day of the week.
It is a Monday. We chose a weird day to make this a regular thing, but you know what? We got to catch up after all the craziness that happens over the weekend. We had DC Fandom here recently. We had New York Comic-Con over the last week or so. There's been a lot of craziness. And we also have to give everybody our review on What If. It's going to be a little bit short because we're kind of behind the curve on that one. But we said we were going to do it last show. We skipped out on it. There were various reasons, but mainly because we were only like 2 episodes away from the show just being finished, and we're like, hey, let's just do it that way. Let's just talk about it when it's all done. Well, it's all done now. I was very pleased with how it came out. But Josh, you've got a couple things that you were going to dig on here before we jump into that. You got to tell me about New York Comic-Con, bro.
Yeah, New York Comic-Con. It was fun. It was a lot. It was a lot of work as always. Got out there. Well, I finished up my job. Had my last days at my job. Had a weekend at Grand Comic-Con. Grand Comic-Con was fantastic. As always, Doug put on a fantastic show out there in Grand Island, and that was a blast. So I was out there from Friday night to Sunday. Friday night, we, they always screen a classic movie at the Grand Theater before the con. This year they screened The Last Starfighter, and oh my gosh, I will never not see that movie on the big screen if I have the chance to. That is a classic film. I loved it. It was great. So then I was there till Sunday. Got home Sunday night. Took Monday to finish packing and flew out to New York on Tuesday. And I went out there alone this year. Maddie stayed home. And so I was a little nervous about how things were going to go. Flew into LaGuardia for the first time in over a decade. I've been flying to Newark, but Southwest doesn't go there. So that was new. Got to the con. With everything going on this year with the vax and everything, I didn't really know what to expect. I downloaded this app so I could show my ID and my vax card really simply. Got there, got in, and I just gotta vent for just a little bit because it was a crazy first day. Okay, so I get there and I'm all alone, so I'm trying to be as super efficient as possible. So this is my 5th year there as a vendor. So I had the driver dropped me off right at the front door, and he was a great driver. He was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get you there. And he got me there, and I got all the stuff on my cart, my little cart. I got these boxes and the big banner stands and everything. I'm wheeling it in. Person stops me at the door. For the last 4 times that I've been there, they always stop you at the door because they don't want you bringing in a dolly with 4 wheels. You got to convert it to 2 wheels. And I'm like, it's all right. I'm going to convert it. And she's like, no. You can't bring that in at all. This year we're sending all the vendors down the block. And I'm like, crap. And so I'm like, well, can I at least go in there and get my badges? I need my badges to get to my table. And she's like, well, can someone watch your stuff? I'm like, no, it's just me. And she's like, all right, well, just go down the block. They'll probably not even check you. Get in, drop your stuff off at your booth, then go get your badges. And I'm like, anyway, so I do it. I drag my stuff all the way down the block like I had avoided by having the guy drop me off at the front door. Got in, got all the way to my booth, and my booth doesn't have my sign on there that says Fierce Literature. And I'm like, all right, well, I know this is my booth because this is the booth number the agent got me. Dropped off my stuff, started walking out of the con to the staff tables. And, I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up my badges. And they're like, well, because it's COVID this year, you can only pick up yours. Your other people have to pick up their badges on the days of. And I'm like, all right. So then they look me up, and it's kind of taking a while, and they're like, we can't find you in the system. And I was like, well, here's my ID. Could be under my name, could be under Fierce Literature. And they're like, yeah, you're not in here. Are you sure you have a table at New York Comic Con this year? And I was like, yes. I love my agent, the guy, my contact with Reed Pop. He's been the same guy for years. This year he had me go a different route for payment than I normally go. I don't know if it was quicker or more sufficient or something, but my mind goes to the worst possibility quickly. So as soon as they told me you don't have a table here, I was like, wait, did somebody like clone his email and I just like paid a random guy, the money for this booth and I don't have this? And I'm freaking out. And they're like, and I was like, well, this is my guy. He still works for Reed Pop, right? And they're like, yeah. It's like, can you call him and see what's up? And they're like, you can call him. And so they give me here, we'll even give you a number. So they wrote his number down and I called the number and it immediately goes to something like, this mailbox has not been set up. Hang up. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, all right, look, I'm just going to go back, get my stuff, and then I'll figure this out. So I try to go back in the con. And of course, the security guard is being a good security guard. And it's like, hey, you don't have a badge to get in. I'm like, but that's my stuff right over there. No, sorry, you can't get in without a badge. So I can't get to my stuff. I'm on my phone, like looking through old emails, trying to find another number. I find another number, call, goes to voicemail, leave a message. I find two other numbers for like one agent does so many letters in the alphabet, the next agent does the next one. So I was like leaving messages for all of them until I find one of them that answers the phone. And he's like, just hold up, we'll get you situated. Thankfully, I didn't have to hold up for too long. My agent calls me back. He's like, yeah, I don't know what's up. You're not in the system at all. But I know you have a table here. So let me just call down. I'll get them to fix it and we'll get you in there. So 30 minutes of stress. They finally got me in the system and got me my badge. And I'm just like, oh, I did not need that stressor today and load in day of all days. So I finally got to my booth. It doesn't end there. I get to my booth and I got a corner booth this year. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to go big. Got a corner booth. Well, a corner booth is more expensive because it's more exposure. But if you really want to take advantage of that, you get a second table. Well, I had to buy a second table. For some reason, the more expensive booth still only comes with one table. So I get there and my one table is there. And I see a guy that works for Freeman. They take care of all the, con stuff. And I go to the guy and I'm like, hey, I'm supposed to have two tables here. He's like, oh, okay, let me look you up. And he looks me up and says, oh, yeah, it says here you paid for one table. I was like, yep. He's like, well, I see one table at your booth. So what's the issue? I said, well, the booth comes with one table. I paid for an extra table. And this was not processing in his brain. So he told me to go to the Freeman desk on the other side of the con floor. So I go to the Freeman desk and they say the same thing. Oh, you paid for one. You got one. Yes, but the booth comes with one. No, the booth doesn't come with anything. And I was like, yes, it does. This is my 5th time doing this. It comes with the table. So I had to do another whole thing with my agent for the next hour to then get the second table. So finally got the second table. And I'm like, all right, let's just set up. If these are my only problems for the week, I'll be fine. One more thing happened. So,
they come in threes then.
Yeah, they come in threes. So I flew out with all of my stuff, right? I fly out with all of my booth stuff. I send all of my books. And this year I'd been doing pretty well. I had Planet Comic-Con in August. I had Grand Comic-Con right before this. So I made sure I had enough books at home for those cons. And then I ordered new books from New York Comic-Con. And I did it well in advance. And I sent it to my friend Kevin. He lives out there. So new books sent from Amazon. They all were projected to get there the Friday before I was supposed to arrive. Well, 2 boxes didn't show up. And of course, I find this out Monday. Thankfully, I found it out Monday before I went out. 2 boxes didn't show up. The first book of my trilogy and the new book. So that means that I couldn't sell sets if I didn't find a way to bring out more of the first book, and I couldn't sell my new book. So all day Monday, I had to go around town, go to the comic shop, find copies of my new book. I scrounged up 18 copies. I paid for 35 to get out there. And I was digging around for boxes in my house trying to find copies of my first book. So I found enough and I got it out there. And yeah, I didn't have as many books as I wanted to, but that was the third thing. It was just, oh yeah, I went to UPS while I was there, said, hey, do you have these books? They said, nope, they're lost. I was like, well, can you look for them, like based on the last check-in point? And they're like, nope, sorry. So yeah, didn't have as many books this year. I sold out of the 18 of the new book because people wanted the new book.
Nice.
It's nice to sell out, but I paid for 35. I knew that I could, and I paid for a bigger booth. But anyway, it was stressful start. But once the weekend finally got to the con, it was a good time. I had fun. The con itself went incredibly smoothly. I had Alan there. He's from the Victims and Villains Network. What's his podcast? You've got to see this, or you've got to see this, or where basically the different people on the podcast like suggest a movie that the other ones hadn't seen, and then make each other watch it. And it's not all bad movies; it's like classic movies. So he was there. He helped me out at the booth all weekend. There was some great cosplay. You had Squid Game, which we talked about in the past. I wore my Ducks jersey that I got for my birthday, and people loved it. I saw like 5 other people with that jersey. This is Kevin, and his partner Steven. Kevin is the person that I stay with every year when I go out there. This guy right here, I don't know if it's clear to see this, but I told him up front, I'm like, man, from the nose up, you look like Wesley Crusher. It's kind of scary how much you look like Wesley Crusher for those people that are Star Trek fans. Then he takes his mask off, and I should have taken a picture. The dude could be a twin of
be a stand-in.
Yeah, of the guy that plays Wesley Crusher. It's so scary. Anyway, it was a good time. There's a lot of Kratos cosplayers out there. And yeah, New York Comic Con went really well. Instead of 250,000 people over the weekend, there was 150,000. They capped it at that. It was still very packed. There was noticeable blank spaces where big studios normally are, but there was still a lot of stuff to do. They brought in, some exclusives still. My partner, Alan, went to the Ghostbusters panel and ended up being able to screen the whole movie, which was great. The Deadpool Harley Quinn costumes that show up at every con were replaced by Wanda and Loki variants. Those were easily the biggest costumes out there. I mean,
yeah, that makes sense. They opened up a real can of worms with that one.
Yeah, there was so many. Oh, and I didn't take a picture of it. Alan did, but there was one guy that dressed up as Owen Wilson's character, and he was hauling around a blow up jet ski, and he would just get on there and take a picture. Anyway, it was a good weekend. I had a really fun time, and like I said, rocky start, but once we got past the craziness, it was definitely a good trip and good for the table. So yeah,
good stuff. Right,
long story, but sorry.
No, you're good. I still want to make my way out there at some point. It'd be cool to do it as the Nerf herders vendor of some kind, but we gotta come up with something to do with it.
Yeah. That was the nice thing about Alan, because there's podcasters that show up all the time, there, and they're always passing out their cards. They're always saying, hey, I'd love to interview you on the podcast. And he was just right there with cards for his podcast that, hey, I'll trade you, so I'd
love to get out
even
there
if we
take photos, even
even if you didn't have a full Nerf Herders Assemble booth, it'd still be cool to have you out some year. I think that'd be fun.
Well, I held down the fort down here. I went through the entirety of Star Wars Visions while you were out, and I'm really sorry that you didn't get to catch in on that. As of right now, just today, I uploaded my genuine trailer reaction for the new Batman trailer that came out recently. So you can catch that right now over on our YouTube channel, and there's a link to it on our Facebook now. Um, you said that DC didn't have a presence at NYCC this year.
Right.
And so most of the
They had
content that was coming,
Fandom 2 weeks later or a week
most of the
later.
stuff was coming out was for DC Fandom. So
Yeah.
so they had that trailer that came out. They also did a reveal for Black Adam and the new Flash movie, which was pretty cool to see. But this trailer for the Batman, oh my goodness, it really brought it with this one, and I really appreciated it. There's a specific moment in that trailer where, spoiler alert, specific moment in that trailer where there's two of them. He takes a shot at point blank from what looked like a sawed-off shotgun or a pistol or something like that. Looked like a big bore weapon of some kind, and he really takes a hit to it, and I loved that. I love that he's not perfect. He's not dodging gunfire just yet. I was like, oh, they're gonna have some subtle hints towards that. And then later on in the trailer, he's in a hallway and he's just tanking bullets from these machine guns. And I was losing my mind. I was just like, this is wonderful. This is a Batman who has not figured it all out yet. And then he even says in the trailer, is like, I don't care what happens to me. Like, he's that reckless year 2 young emo kid Batman, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And then just it was before the weekend, you got on me saying, it was like, hey, have you seen the trailer yet? There's a theory that came out that you wanted to talk about, like, and I'm really curious to hear what you were talking about.
Yeah, well, first off, that trailer, I agree with you, is a gorgeous trailer. What I really loved about it was the sunlight scenes. Like, I mean, whether it was the sunlight hitting, Cobblepot on the face, or it was Batman and Catwoman on rooftop talking to each other, or there was one real quick shot.
We had a Batman sunset. It was so weird.
Yeah, there was I don't know if that was sunset or sunrise, like it was the end of the Batman shift,
Probably sunrise. That makes sense.
There was one spot where, like, Catwoman straight up jumps off the building and it's just in this glowy gold haze, There's another spot of Batman dropping down from the light to the darkness, and I was like, oh my God, that just looks, it's just art on screen.
They're getting my cinematographer wheels turning like crazy with them, man. There's so many good shots in this trailer.
So the theory that I heard, now I don't believe they'll do this. I think it would be amazing if they did. I don't believe they'll do it. I think it's a stretch, but it'd be amazing. So everybody seems to be watching this trailer, you and me both, thinking it's a young Bruce Wayne who's just like not fully established, not fully got, his full charisma. He's angry, he hasn't gotten that cold, stern, Batman that we all know. Okay. The theory is it's not Bruce Wayne. It's Dick Grayson. And it's Dick Grayson taking up the mantle after Batman Bruce Wayne is killed. And he's pissed and he's going after the people that did it. And there's a line in the trailer that says, what's black and blue and dead all over? And he says, you. And if he's talking to Batman, maybe that's because Nightwing is black and blue and everybody thinks Batman is dead. I mean, you don't see Cobblepot acting like, what the hell is this? He seems pretty calm around Batman, almost as if it's not new to him. He just thinks that clearly this isn't the Batman because the Batman's dead. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to go that route. I think if they did, it would be amazing. And also Catwoman was a big part of that story too, making sure Dick Grayson was okay. And Alfred was a big part of that, saying don't get too far into vengeance. And we've heard Batman say, I am vengeance Well, maybe we just assume he's talking about his parents, but according to this theory, it could be Dick Grayson avenging the death of Bruce Wayne.
So I'm seeing just by you saying that, like I'm looking at his chest logo here,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like it's a lot longer. Like it reminds me of the Nightwing logo
Of the
a
thinner.
lot. Like it
Yeah.
almost looks like he kind of like merged those styles a little bit. I can see something like that.
And you even
Uh,
mentioned it in your thing that he kind of seems like an emo kid at
yeah,
points. Well,
yeah,
maybe because this isn't Bruce Wayne, maybe it's
and
because it's a disheveled Dick Grayson.
Cobblepot has a lot of prominence in Bloodhaven, where Nightwing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
was where Nightwing primarily hung out. It wasn't a Gotham hero, he was a Bloodhaven hero.
Mm-hmm.
Um and we've seen a lot of Cobblepot in these last couple trailers here. It's very clear that that's going to be um that he's going to be a big prominent character here.
Mm-hmm.
Um there was a particular scene in this trailer that might, I don't know, it might actually support this. I don't know for sure. So we saw Edward Nygma, we assume the Riddler, getting arrested at the very beginning of the trailer. SWAT team comes in, they catch him at this like old style cafe. Not only
Mm-hmm.
that, he's got like those old classic Coke bottle glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got like this 70s looking haircut and stuff like that. I thought that this was going to be set back quite a bit, not quite a bit older, but like even the Batmobile looks like it's an older classic car. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's got kind of that feel to it. And so I thought that this was going to be set like much farther back in time, and we were going to get a
Like a
less
period
modern,
piece. Yeah.
yeah, we were going to get a less modern version of the Batman. But then at the same time, I gotta pull the trailer up now because this is going to drive me crazy. We're spinning off on a fucking tangent now. Um, like, oh, that's loud. Okay, so yeah, we get this scene with the SWAT team, and we're all in the shadows here, so I can't really tell too much. But man, like just the haircut and the glasses makes it seem like this is kind of like an older style thing. And then the cops are all wearing those hats from like
Yeah.
the old
Yeah.
style like cop hats and stuff like you don't really see those nowadays anymore. Like
And
and
that could be a period piece, or it could be a nod to how we always see that Gotham is kind of in flux with time. Like even like
sure.
the animated series was like half old timey cars and stuff like that, but clearly like more modern tech and guns and stuff. Like Gotham has always been in this weird neo gothic kind of flux. So I mean, it could just be mixing those things too.
Well, I thought that based off of that, we were going to see kind of like a flash. I felt like that might have been a flashback.
Oh,
And
right.
so I think parts of it are going to take place maybe in that older time frame. Maybe we
Maybe.
see him as a younger kid, kind of getting that,
Mm.
kind of like they did with the Dark Knight, or with Batman, uh, the first out of the Dark Knight trilogy.
Batman Begins. Yeah.
Batman Begins, yeah. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Where we were just kind of seeing like them going back and forth.
Hmm.
Well, they didn't really go back and forth, but like we saw his origin play out pretty quickly. I feel
Sure.
like
Sure.
there might have been some like if they make this more Riddler's movie, and so we're seeing flashbacks like that for why he is the way he is, because there's some modern motorcycles and some much more modern looking vehicles throughout here as well. But I don't know, it just had this like this classic style feel to it in some places, and it
Yeah.
made me feel
Well,
like he is kind of holding on to some older stuff, some stuff that like reminds him of his past and stuff. Uh,
it looks like a lot of world building.
yeah,
I know you were
yeah.
talking
I love
about.
that they're getting. It feels like they're gonna go deep. In whatever direction that they're gonna go in deep.
Yeah, and
Um,
I know you were kind of worried about things like too many villains, and I
yeah,
don't know that Cobblepot is necessarily a major villain in the show, like as much as Carmine Falcone
Falcone. Yeah.
was in Batman Begins. Like he's definitely a villain, but he wasn't the main villain, you know. And if anything, Matt Reeves knows how to world build. We saw that in his number 2 and number 3 of the Planet of the Apes trilogy. He knows how to expand and how to set the seeds and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I've heard nothing of continuing this saga other than a possible show, like a Gotham PD show on HBO Max. But if it does well, like I just hope all the rumors about the drama between him and Robert Pattinson and the cast weren't true, and I just hope that it does well, and that if it doesn't well enough that they can continue it, because I think it has so much promise for just a one-off, you know.
Yeah, that's a big thing. But it, man, like in a world where just about everything has a sequel, I'm hoping that it is kind of a. I'm hoping that it's the one-off where they've got that world built, but
Well, I mean, we'll see. I guess we'll see it. The only thing I'm a little worried about is Matt
them ripping
Reeves.
off the Imperial March theme for the music at the very end.
That's
Did you not hear that? Dude, that was
I
driving
heard
me
that.
crazy.
It was
I was like, holy
being
shit!
in
It
the
could
same
fit.
key is not ripping off
No,
the
dude, it could
entire.
not
Come on
a
now.
rip off, but I could feel like I could feel it. I was like, this is in there. We're gonna see an evil Darth Vader like Batman. I'm fucking loving it. They've
What
got
I'm
red
worried
in the
about is
theme, fucking everywhere. I'm calling it now. There's even a
I'm worried.
shot where Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman is like behind him. They're like crouched, and he's beating the hell out of somebody, and she's looking at him doing this, like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
I
like
know,
even she was like really freaked out, and I'm like,
and I think that
ooh.
leads to the theory that I don't know. I seriously doubt it'll happen, but there's so many things in the trailer that support the theory. And having read, like I have all of the comics up here from the the whole battle for the cowl
Right.
forward, where Bruce Wayne was supposedly dead for a while, and Dick Grayson begrudgingly took on the cowl and then took on all the shit that came with it. And it was just so great. And he didn't want it. He really didn't want it, but he took it because he had to. And I just think that, you know, we've got so much Batman media right now that could separate this from everything else. And it's not going to happen. But I just thought
Yeah.
that was a really cool theory. What I am concerned
I thought
about,
there was
though,
something out there already that this was year 2 Batman.
a lot of people have been
That it was
saying
early
that,
on.
but I don't know. I mean, year 2 Batman is a lot around the death of Bruce Wayne's parents, and I don't see any of that in the trailer. And I think
Yeah.
we're all tired of that. But
Yeah.
I did want to mention one other thing. I'm sorry for the blurry picture, but this is Matt Reeves, right? The director. This was what he looked like last year at DC Fandom with the behind the scenes stuff. Okay.
Okay.
This is what he looks like this year. And I'm a little concerned. I'm like, did the production of this like take some time off of his life, or I don't know if he's gotten more healthy or gotten unhealthy, but he looks strikingly different, and I
I don't
couldn't
know,
help but
man.
notice that.
COVID took a lot out of everybody, dude.
I mean, I'm hoping that's what the case is, but
it was a
and you
rough
know,
year.
somebody that I'm good friends with noticed it too, and they reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm not making a joke about this, so don't be pissed off at me." But it reminded him of
The lighting in this shot is also very different, and so
yeah,
some of that
sure,
brighter color that you're seeing is probably reflection
sure.
from that
Oh,
light and from
I
whatever
get the
product he
color,
has in
but
his hair.
he's very much skinnier. He's very much skinnier. But a friend of mine was like, "Don't get mad," but it reminded me of Chadwick Boseman, just becoming, and
Oh
I was like,
God,
"Well."
no.
Yeah, let's hope for the best, and maybe he just got healthy, but he looks strikingly different. And I'm like, let's just all say a little
Well,
prayer for Matt Reeves and hope
lone
that he's
mustache
okay.
lone mustaches add 10 years to anybody's look. So
Okay,
I mean,
maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just the mustache.
it's
And
just,
I'm just making everything else up. Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope that
oh
that's the
jeez.
case. I know you want to talk about visions and we want to talk about what if. I'm just going to sprinkle these in real quick. While I was in New York, I did get to see No Time to Die. We saw it, Alan and I saw it at the Empire 25 in the Dolby Theater, the same theater I saw a Blade Runner 2049 in, and thank God we did because it was glorious. This movie is a 2 hour and 47-minute film and doesn't feel like a 2 hour and 47-minute film. It was glorious. It is. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's the finale of the Daniel Craig saga.
Oh, they're using it for the taglines and every
and
advertisement that they do.
And I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but it is a fantastic finale for the Daniel Craig saga. Those people that have loved him since Casino Royale, that have stuck through kind of the films of Quantum of Solace and Spectre, this is the, there was a time where Spectre was going to be his last film. In fact, making that movie, he told people he'd rather slit his wrist than do another film. He came back for this, and thank goodness he did, because they wrote him a swan song of a departure, and it's beautiful. It's great. Rami Malek was great. All of the supporting cast was great, and yeah, I really, really loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I got to get caught up because I didn't see Spectre. Still haven't seen it. Because yeah, Quantum of Solace was just like, eh.
Skyfall was amazing. So basically, his odd films are great. Like Quantum was great.
Okay.
No, I mean not Quantum. Casino was great. Quantum was not. Skyfall was great. Spectre was not. And No Time to Die is the finale. So highly recommend if you've got 2 hours and 47 minutes to spare.
I mean, if I can spare it for Endgame, I can spare it for this.
Right.
I've got like I said, I've got a long list of movies that I need to get caught up on. And so like there's gonna be a lot of them you've put on there. So the future of Nerf Herders for this holiday season, when everything finally starts to fucking slow down for me, it's just gonna be me catching up on a bunch of movies that I never saw, that I should have seen a long fucking time ago. And yeah, I've got to finish out the Bond series. I've got to finish out the Fast series.
Yeah,
I've got to check out Halloween, because that's another one that you saw that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so Halloween, the reverse. If you want to save yourself a couple hours, don't go see this movie. This movie
really
was some straight up bullshit. I mean, it was
because I've been seeing some like good reviews for it. How it's just like a classic like spooky season kill 'em up movie.
I've seen half and half. I've seen people like Chris Stuckman saying, go see this. I've seen people like Jeremy Johns saying, I'll forget it by tomorrow morning. And I am in the Jeremy Johns camp. It was forgettable as fuck. It was just, first of all, we knew going into the movie that this is part 2 of a trilogy, because they've already announced that Halloween Ends comes out next year. So there's literally a mob throughout this movie that every 5-minute chants, Jason dies tonight or evil dies tonight. Like, if you went into this and that was your shots game, you'd be dead by halfway through the film. They say it so much. And it gives me a headache, because you're just like, guys, I know there's a third movie. He's not going to die in this film. And I won't spoil it, but yeah, there's a third movie coming, guys.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Anything that you thought was going to happen in this movie happens and then unhappens. And
there's this thing about the Halloween movies, or like Freddy Krueger, like the classic horror movie slasher villains, where like they've kind of taken up like the comic book trope of just, they ain't dead. Doesn't matter what you see, they're not dead. I don't know. Like, I've never been a horror guy, so I never had any appeal to see it. Out of everything that I have seen so far, everybody is saying that the first Halloween, the classic from the 70s, is like the only good one. I mean, I don't know where you land on that. I know that you've seen them, but
I mean, it's a pretty good one. Yeah. I wouldn't say
Okay.
it's the only good one, but it's definitely one of the more solid ones for sure.
Okay.
This is going to
I
be
mean,
really
I mean, they
blurry. I
probably laid
wonder
the groundwork down.
I wonder if you can see this clearly. But yeah, this is how convoluted the Halloween timeline is
All
at
right.
this point. You've got the first one, you've got the second one, and then you had this anthology, and then they did 4, 5, and 6, and then they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back for the first time in H2O, and then there was a sequel to that, and then Rob Zombie did a reboot, and then they retconned all of this with the Halloween movie that came out a couple years ago with Jamie Lee Curtis back. So there's so many
So she's
tracks you could go on.
Jamie Lee Curtis is in the original Halloween movie.
She's in
Like
the
she's
original one, yes,
okay.
and then
She's in
she
this.
came back at age 20, and then came back for Resurrections, and then they retconned all of that and made Halloween the official sequel. So they'd
Okay.
done all these other films, and then they're like, no, this is the official sequel. So there's a lot going on. But they were like, hey, everybody liked it when we brought Laurie Strode back, Jamie Lee Curtis. Let's bring all these other people back. So, I mean, every other person in this film was, hey, remember that kid that fell on the sidewalk in the first movie? This is him. Hey, remember that chick that got scared in the car but got away? This is her. And it was just like the first half hour of the film was all that. And then the
That's
rest
dumb.
of it was just
Right.
this mob going around saying, we're going to kill Jason tonight. And yet somehow, like, if an entire town believes that this dude is evil incarnate, you would think they'd know enough to double tap or triple tap or just double check. But nope. It's like they haven't learned. And horror movies aren't fun when everybody is stupid as hell. I mean, I know you got to have some people, but there's got to be one person in there that you root for, right? That you're like, all right, he's got some sense. She's got some sense. Let's follow
Right.
them. There's nobody in this film. Everybody in this film deserves to die, and you don't care. And then by the end of it, you're just like, okay, yep, third film. Let's, this is a
Well,
filler film. It didn't need to happen. I get it. You wanted to make a trilogy, but Empire Strikes Back was the second film, and that was still a good film. You can't forget to make the second film a good film. You can't just be like, let's just fill up a couple hours until we get to the third movie. And that's all this film was. I mean, even Maddie was super excited about this because she loved the last Halloween, and she said she was pissed. She was like, this was a waste of time. So if you really want to see it, I guess you can watch it from home at Peacock. That's how we did. She was like, I would have been so pissed if we went to the theater. We still paid for it, but at least we didn't go to the theater to see it. So that's my review. No spoilers.
well, I don't know how I feel about the you didn't really ruin anything for me. Dude, that's kind of what I'm talking about with the horror genre itself. I want to be told a good story, and it seems like most horror films these days aren't telling a good story. They're just doing hack and slash stuff, trying to get jump scares out of you, trying to scare you, trying to be a scary movie.
Sure.
But like scary movies seem to have gotten like pretty cheap in the last several times. I mean, I think they were always cheap. I think since I have entered myself into the filmmaking community, I think I have been asked by far more people if I'd be interested in making a horror film than anything else. Honestly, and it's exhausting because I've listened to the pitch from two people on like how they what they plan to show people, and I don't have enough experience in the cinematic or the filmmaking world to be like saying what's good and what's not. But like all of the films that I have been seeing specifically around the local community, except for like a few, have been really shit horror films. And it's like I understand that you're trying to like tell a scary, like you're trying to scare people, like you're trying to freak people out, trying to give them that gore, and that's fine, but you're not telling me a good story here. So it's like it's not compelling. Like you're just like, I'm kind of mailing it in until this is over at this point. and I'm not going to name off any titles, but that's also me. Like, because like at the same time, I'm not a horror guy, so it's like I'm not your target audience for this, so of course I'm not going to be into it, and I'm also going to judge it harsher than anybody else will. These movies do pretty well as far as the local filmmaking community is concerned, but I just don't see it, and I see that same pattern with even big budget Hollywood, like because even even if you look at the budgets of some of these films compared to some other really films that are released around the same period that are not inside the horror genre, you look at these things, you're like, wow, they made this for cheap. And
Well, and
then it kind
they
of
make
comes
some good
to,
horror movies for cheap too, and
yeah, it doesn't take a
that
huge budget.
cheapness almost forces them to focus more on the story, and sometimes it works, you know. Like
I'm told that Don't Breathe there. I know they have a Don't Breathe too, but I'm told that the first one was actually excellent.
yeah, I did
Um,
see Candyman, which was a sequel to the old Candyman movie. That was a horror film. That was actually pretty good. Wrong Turn was another 2021 sequel that was pretty good. Upgrade, that's kind of like a sci-fi horror movie with a lower budget that was really good.
mm,
Trying to think. I just looked up horror movies to Quiet Place. Those
yeah,
are
A Quiet Place
sci-fi
was great.
horror.
I
Fear
almost don't
Street,
call it
that was
quiet.
pretty good.
I almost don't call Quiet Place a horror film though. Like
I guess it's like a
that one fell
thriller.
more into like sci-fi thriller for me.
Yeah.
But
Fear Street
even so,
trilogy,
like
that was good.
if they had marketed it as a horror film and then I'd gone in there and been like, hey, this is actually a great story, I'd have been like, all right, cool, we're good. I'm on board.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare. I will give it to you that it's rare for modern horror movies to be good, and or they're horror with a sci-fi twist like Sputnik
I was gonna say, isn't
or
Sputnik one that you had talked about
yeah,
before too? I think that was
but
a Russian
like
film.
A Quiet Place, I would consider that more sci-fi thriller than horror. I don't
Mhm.
see it on here, but there's a movie that keeps on being pushed out called Antlers that I'm really excited about. Didn't me and you
Yeah,
do a trailer
yeah, we did
reaction
it.
for that?
Yeah, that one's a Del Toro film.
Yeah, or I
Um,
think he produced it. I don't think he directed it, but I think that's finally coming out
okay, yeah,
the
produced by
15th.
Guillermo
It
del
didn't
Toro.
come out. It didn't come out already.
No, that was its original date. I think it's out in theaters now because I saw an ad recently that it was out and visible.
Are you serious? Did I totally? Oh my gosh. Oh no, it comes out. They bumped it to the 28th. I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna have to cut this short. I gotta go, but no, comes out on the 28th. I really want to see that movie. It looks really really good.
I
But
remember
yeah,
the trailer looking pretty dope, and the legend
it was
around the Wendigo is
right.
always something that I get kind of into, even though I'm not a believer, but that kind of old Native American legend stuff I really like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to check that out. But we got to wrap this
Enough.
up because I gotta go to the bathroom so bad it's ridiculous. Visions. I'm really sad that you didn't get a chance to check this out for this episode. So, but at the same time, I'm really pleased because I get to do a spoiler-free review now
Mm-hmm.
to stop you from catching anything that you shouldn't, and be the one to tell you is like, hey, I was pleasantly surprised by this series, and I
Hmm.
was also massively disappointed that there wasn't more, which I think is the exact thing that you would want. Um,
Yeah.
so for those who don't know, Star Wars Visions is I think it is 7 different independent anime studios that made 9 episodes of just 9 individual. They're not connected to each other. It's not a series. They are individual stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they actually did an excellent job. Um, I'm not a huge fan of anime. Like I'm not the person to the person to go to for that information or for the latest anime recommendations. You had a video series that you were doing for a while back in like the earlier days of our trailers where you were like checking out anime, like classic
Mm-hmm.
anime for the first time and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, we the back in the Disney presentation, the stockholder presentation, they did an ad. They showed Star Wars Visions, but they didn't give us any information on what it actually was. Like they kept it pretty quiet. They revealed the title, but that was it, and we didn't really know what it was. And then it came out that it was going to be an anime series. And then out of absolutely nowhere, they dropped a trailer not terribly long ago. We did not do a reaction to that, but yeah, uh, it was actually really good. There were some episodes that were definitely catered towards a younger audience, and for the most part, they were still enjoyable. Like you could still appreciate them for the art style. You can tell just by watching them how difficult it actually is to produce a single episode of anime, which uh, makes it really easy to understand why the episodes are so short. Like some of these are barely 15 minutes long. Um, I think the longest one is like 22 minutes. But again, they're all individual stories, and I would say that for the most part, I would be happy to see a series continuing on out of at least, I want to say at least 4 or 5 of these stories. Some of them actually, and I say 4 or 5 because I'm actually kind of torn on episode 1, which you did see. You did see the Duelist. That is one where I feel like I don't need a series off of it. I feel like it stands alone on its own pretty well. It's just kind of like this really cool exhibition of a of like this old feudal Japan era style looking Star Wars story that was told very quickly, very but very well. And the art style is really neat to look at. But there's several more that I think are really good. You mentioned that one of them, based around the Ninth Jedi, the creator is ready to pull the trigger on more, and he's got pretty much everything that he needs.
Yeah, he did a recent interview, and I haven't seen this one, but that's one of them that I'm really excited to see. He said that he filmed it as a pilot, and he said, "I'd love to have the chance to make a full length feature out of this. I feel I have a complete story in place." So
I would love to see it. I would love to
yeah,
see it. The
and
Ninth
that
Jedi
seems
was
to
one of
be
my
a
favorite
favorite.
episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job with that one. It was a compelling story, and it touched on it touched on like the mysticism uh around Star Wars in a really really good way.
Mm.
Honestly, honestly, this is the kind of stuff that I was excited for when Disney kind of came in and took over. Is that Star Wars was going to be open to more than just the trilogy series or the Skywalker saga. I
Hmm.
especially after honestly it was around the time of the Last Jedi. I was starting to feel it. It was just like, man, okay, I'm glad. I guess I'm glad that I'm seeing them finish this out, but at the same time, I really want to see what else they do, because I've always been somebody who was like, hey, I want to see what you guys do in the Old Republic era or something. Like let's see more content that's outside of the Skywalker saga. Let's see more content that is away from including any of those characters. I don't want to hear
Hmm.
about the Death Star. I don't want to hear about Starkiller Base. I don't want to hear about Luke Skywalker. I want to see new, fresh content. And then they came out with The Mandalorian, but thankfully they did that really, really well, even though they still fell inside of the Skywalker timeline and still included more than I would have liked them to. Um,
Hmm.
they still did a really good job in there, but this was an example. This was a perfect example of what I was hoping for. And it gave me, honestly, it gave me a lot of hope about the future of where Disney is going to take their Star Wars content, especially under the helm of Dave Filoni now as well. Um,
Yeah.
if this is a sign of what they're going to do with the yeah, the TIE fighter, this was like the first foray into anything related to anime and Star Wars. This is excellent if you haven't seen it already.
And this was
Uh,
back in 2015,
yeah, this is a
and
long time ago, and
this got a lot of people excited.
I
Like,
don't think
oh
that
my
it's
gosh,
official either. I
it's
don't think that
not.
this was.
This was a fan-made short
Yeah,
film called TIE Fighter, and it's 6 years old at this point. And when people saw this, they were like, "Oh my gosh, could you imagine if they did like an anime series like this?"
they did such a good job with this. It's excellent.
So I don't know if
Um,
this kind of influenced Visions, but I wonder if Visions was just
Certainly showed
like,
them there was an audience for it, a
yeah,
huge
I
audience
wonder
for
if
it.
Visions was like just like their animatrix for the Star Wars, or if it literally was just like a taste tester to see what people liked and then what Disney should invest in, you know.
So
And if that's the case, take the ones that people like the most and make it into a series or into a movie.
I'm in that boat. So as you watch them, it does kind of feel almost like it's like it's a season of pilots. And they're like, hey, this is what we have. Like, they release it all as a whole thing, because anime is something that Disney hadn't really tapped into in any regard, as far as I'm aware. I mean, at least not directly under the Disney name. And Star Wars was the perfect vessel for them to start with, because like they've got plenty of Marvel content. It's like if they were going to focus anime on anything, the Star Wars universe was perfect for it.
Right.
They know how big anime is around the world. They know what its potential is, and they were like, you know what, we've got the money to do it. And we know we know that there are stories that people want to tell inside the Star Wars universe. Let's see what they do with it. And if that's what they did, I feel like it is. They found a reasonable amount of success out of them, because like I said, the majority of the episodes, I would like to see more of what they do. And they also did an excellent job with the I would say that they did mostly an excellent job with the American voice cast. I haven't watched the episodes dubbed. I did watch them with their English side, but Tamura Morrison came back for Boba Fett, as you can see here in this in just this screen here. You had David Harbour in there. You had Simu Liu. There were several big names that were on board for this.
Well, and you can get away with dubbing in animation, you know, a little more than you can.
You can, but at the same time, it's also really easy to get a hold of voice actors who don't put the level of emotion into it that they need to. I mean, voice acting's tough. That's a difficult beast.
Sure.
And I've seen like, especially in video games, I've seen a lot of video games where the voice actor killed it for me. Even if the content like had the potential to get there. But yeah, Star Wars Visions was great. If there were episodes that fell short of what I would have hoped for, the other episodes that were in there were good enough to leave me wanting more, enough to give this just a glowing review. And without getting into spoilers, that's about as far as I can go.
Okay. Well, do you want to take a little bathroom break?
You don't need 2.5 hours to watch through the whole thing.
I guess
you can burn through it pretty quick, because the episodes are very short for the most part.
Yeah.
I think, well, it might be 2.5 hours. like I said, the longest episode is like 22 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've got something that you can hash out for a second, so I can take a quick bathroom break, we'll come back and we'll talk what if.
Yeah, let's do that.
Perfect for me. All right, I will be right back.
So I wanted to show this to Seth here, and hopefully I can when he gets back. But there is something that has come up recently with, you know, all the talk around Squid Game. If you saw Squid Game, it kind of reignited the dub versus sub war. You know, that's always been a thing with anime. It's been a thing with people who adore foreign films. I love foreign films. Ever since I lived in Korea, it was just a thing that I just took in and just couldn't get enough of. Was just foreign films that I would have never come across had I only stuck to what was, you know, a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video at the time. But there is a new tool that they're trying to push, and I'm trying to find what the technology is for it. It's basically to better dubbing. So it's basically, here it is. So it's what is this? It's called Flawless, and it's really Seth is back. I wanted to show you this. I was just kind of delaying it until I could show it to you. We talked about Squid Game a little bit, right? And I was just talking about how Squid Game has reignited the sub versus dub war. You know, should you watch it in the original, with subtitles? Should you watch it in dub? You know, we've talked about the how sometimes the dubbing, you know, leaves a lot in terms of emotion and acting out of it. Sometimes it's really fantastic. There is a company out there that is offering a solution to all this, and I read an article about it. It's called Flawless, and it's a software company that uses AI and basically like deep fake to
Make the
make
mouth
the
movements
face
match with the
look
dub.
like it's matching the language. Yeah, and they did this little promo reel, and I don't know if you can hear it. Can you hear this at all?
No.
No. I wonder if I had I gotta reshare the screen here. Let's see, share screen, but with audio. There we go. And so they kind of show you different scenes. They get, but with different languages. Oh, I should probably put it on that one.
This one's not a great one.
No,
De
I don't know why they
Niro.
did
De
that.
Niro's a tough one to.
You could tell, like you could tell it's AI moving the lips, but it's something that they're working on to like match it, and I think it would take like that much more out of it, you know, if people are like, "Oh, it's the lips thing; they don't match up, so I can't see it."
Right.
It's trying to take that out of the equation, and you know, I guess I'm sure it's expensive, but they basically use like deep fake technology to match it up, and then to change it to whatever the language is. So I'm sure it's expensive. I'm sure it takes a lot of work, but yeah, that's kind of it's a thing that I heard about over the weekend about, you know, their solution for people that just really don't want subtitles. So that's interesting. I thought that was something that, you know, maybe we'll see more of. So
It's
yeah,
weird that that's the way that technology is moving now that we've got that capability. Eventually, it will be indistinguishable.
right. But I mean,
which is terrifying at the same time. But
well, deep fake has always been something that people just assume people are going to use it for the wrong things, and I guess I'd rather them be trying to redub films than use it for like porn or whatever. But
well, the more popular it is in the porn world, the faster the technology is going to advance. Unfortunately,
right. But we finally got to get through What If. We're not going to talk for an hour on this or anything, but
no,
we haven't talked about it at all. So
unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say on this one, because, well, first of all, there's a debate around there as to whether or not this is all canon, thanks to the end of Loki making it multiversal, part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But at the same time, I'm like, does it matter though? Because what are we seeing just introductions to the Marvel Cinematic? Like, first of all, I hope that it's not something that they continue on with. Actually, if like,
did they already announce season 2?
Well, I'm talking about like the individual story itself. Like, I'm hoping that What If season 2 kind of shakes things up again with some of the other like parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they could have done, or just some like other deeper cosmic stuff. Because I really love the multiverse stuff in the comics and some of the craziness that ensues there. But trying to have every single one of them relate to the current cinematic film franchise storylines and stuff like that, I feel like it's going to get kind of old real quick. My favorite episodes of this show were the ones that really strayed off from the way that was. Like the zombies episode was great. The complete turnaround around What If Ultron won. I mean, obviously they did 2 episodes on that. They knew how good that one was going to be. My favorites were when they my favorite moments were when they strayed as far away from it as they possibly could. The Doctor Strange episode was also wonderful.
Yeah. Well, they were all connected to the end as well. Like he ended up pulling them all. I think some of them felt more like stories we didn't need to come back to, where other ones, like the What If zombies or the What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. Those, the way they ended, felt like it was a part one. It could easily come back and have a part two. Oh, Jeffrey Miller popped in. Hey, what's up, buddy? I'm all for watching original language. Also, I understand that people with dyslexia would rather watch dubbed and sub. Yeah, I mean, I guess
That
that's
makes
a
sense. Yeah.
valid reason. But yeah, so I could definitely see a couple of these stories coming back for a sequel in season
Sure.
2, but not all of them, But like, we're not going to see any more T'Challa. But man,
it was
I'm
really
glad
rough
they
to hear
got as
his
much
voice,
of that
man.
as and you think because his episode is the second episode, right? And you're like, oh wow, that was the last one. But then he's in throughout, and then the behind the scenes of this was just that he went to Kevin Feige and he's like, let's do as much of this as we can, and maybe that was him knowing that his time was limited, and and we got to benefit from that. But every time you hear his voice, you're just like, ah, man,
I
miss
cracked
him.
up a couple times in his first episode. It was just like, wow, man, that
Yeah.
sucked because
And
like
it was
they
really
very
neat what
much
they did with him too,
yeah. I just
Basically,
still
if he became
genocide
Star-Lord,
Thanos.
like everything was fine in the universe because T'Challa was Star-Lord, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult. It was also a nice break. But at the same time, like there's a strong part of me that just can't get on board with comedic Thor.
Party Thor, Bro
Party Thor,
Thor,
Bro Thor. Yeah,
with
I can't.
his was it Viva Las Vegas or whatever that was like
Yeah,
his
it's
battle
funny.
cry? Like,
Yeah, it's funny, but at the same time, like I'm like Thor is one of my favorite, if not my favorite character out of the comic book series. And I've been rereading like his most recent comic, and reading on the tablet, and so I'm waiting for like his newest storyline to come out, and his newest storyline is great. It's excellent stuff, but it is not happy-go-lucky comedic Thor whatsoever. It is like this brutal, badass, broken King Thor, and it's wonderful.
well, they strayed from that with Ragnarok. I mean, they've slowly turned him into clumsy comedic Thor over the last
Well,
few films.
they've struck a good balance in a lot of places. I've like, even with Fat Thor, I feel like they did and with not Fat yet, like the Infinity War and Endgame versions of him,
Depressed
like
Thor. Yeah.
yeah, like in the moments where it was like, hey, you know what, he's lost everything, like even if there's some comedic moments in there, they struck a good balance. Ragnarok was a little bit more on the comedy side than anything else, but we're still dealing with the most. I think the reason that they kind of have to do that is because we're dealing with one of the most powerful event. He is the strongest Avenger aside from, I would say, Captain Marvel or Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, but it was cool to see him and Marvel go at it. That was
Yeah,
actually a
that
highlight
was
of
an
that
interesting
episode.
fight.
And the choreography and the animation around that scene, even with like the dust going everywhere when they were fighting in the desert, I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I like this. Like, this is a cool scene. So
It
I
was
did
it was
like that.
really cool that they went in like several of the directions that they went. I was really pleased with. I also really like Captain Carter. She was great. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, it's like, yeah, after the success of Ragnarok, it is not a surprise, but it will get old easily if leaning too much on it. I absolutely
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I
I
absolutely
agree.
agree. The
So
the thing is that Chris Hemsworth is such a good comedic actor that I feel like, even
he's got
like
that
if they
natural
strike the
timing.
balance,
Yeah. Yeah.
like if they keep the balance, so they learned, they're like, hey, we went a little too heavy on it with Ragnarok. Let's dial it back a little bit for Infinity War and Endgame. I feel like they had a good balance in there. But we'll see in Love and Thunder how they go around that.
I really liked Captain Carter, just because I'm a huge fan of Captain America and the first Avenger film. I love that film because it felt like nostalgia on screen. It reminded me so much of of the director's previous works like Rocketeer and stuff like that.
No.
But I was a little nervous because so much of Captain Carter's episode was just redoing the scenes of the
Yeah.
first Avenger with her.
Yeah.
And while it was cool, it was a little jarring how quickly they moved from scene to scene. And I was like, oh gosh, please don't tell me that that is what this whole season's going to be. Thankfully, it was just that episode. Like
I was really
Doctor
worried too.
Strange. I mean, then the next episode was T'Challa as Star-Lord, and it wasn't a recreation. It had nods, but it wasn't a recreation of the first Guardians movie. And then the next one, was all the mightiest heroes getting killed off, and then Doctor Strange. And the further they went, the further more elaborate they got. By the time they got to Doctor Strange, that one was such a departure, even with the repetition in there. It was still such a departure that I was loving it. I was like, I could watch this all day. I love evil Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And not even evil Doctor Strange, desperate.
That's
Doctor
true.
Strange.
But he does get crazy in that. And you know what? That episode made me look at the No Way From Home trailer just a little bit differently, because there's certain scenes in that trailer, like when they're on the subway train and Doctor Strange is making the different trains, and just the look on his face, you're like, wait, is he the villain in this scene? Like,
well,
he doesn't.
even when he's casting the spell, like when Peter's going over with him what he wants to do, like he seems so nonchalant about it. It's like, dude, after everything that you've been through, you should know that fucking with this is a bad idea.
Like, he's always been arrogant, but he hasn't always been reckless, and he seems a little different in this movie. So I wonder if there's if there's something going on with him.
Isn't there a scene in the trailer where he's got the Eye of Agamotto back on?
Maybe I might have missed that.
So I think he's in that train scene. He's got the Eye of Agamotto on.
Okay.
Which
So maybe
who knows if it actually has the time stone in it still?
Right.
Maybe he's hoping that people think that maybe the eye itself probably has some magical properties of some kind. But yeah, looking at this here, he's got
and he does the thing to Spider-Man, pushing him out of his aura or whatever that is. And so I was just looking at that trailer differently after that What If episode and thinking, I wonder if there's a bad Doctor Strange in part of this movie, which could be pretty formidable.
It's just weird. We've got a lot of different things. So we've got a black suit Spider-Man in there for a moment.
Oh yeah, we could dissect that whole trailer. There's so much going on.
But yeah, he's got the there's a couple scenes where he's got the Eye of Agamotto on. He's in a wrecked area here. And he seems all too eager to be like, yeah, absolutely. I'll do this spell. I'll help you do all this. Even after Wong gives him his warning. Like,
Wong's like, don't do it.
That's kind of,
listen to Wong.
But that's also what I'm kind of worried about. I'm like, all right, so what did What If actually do to the cinematic series? Because this kind of continues on with my worry that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is becoming this. It's like it's becoming an episode of a TV show to where you have to see every episode, or these things can't stand alone on their own. Like when you have to see so many other pieces of content in order to get the context of the latest property, it's like, how damaging is that? When you want to, so like if you come across somebody who just isn't into it and you're like, you really want to get them in there for a show that you really like, you really hope that it's not the 20th year of that show and they have to have seen just about everything, or they're gonna be missing bits and pieces just about everywhere.
Well, Marvel already has that problem with the MCU proper because they're in the 20s now of the films. But
but they're going deeper, and I'm like,
unless Feige lied or changed his mind, he did famously say that these Disney Plus shows are expansions, but they will not be required viewing, that the films themselves will still hold up on their own if you're just that one person that didn't want to watch expanded content. But he made it sound like they're canon, but you could get by without seeing them if you really wanted to. So I think that, unless he changed his mind, that should lessen your fears about what if's impact on, the proper MCU. But I would say they're still canon, just like there's so many Marvel comics out at
Oh
once.
yeah,
They're just
like
different universes,
I feel like
They make
they'll touch in them on some other places, and if
yeah.
anything, in the Multiverse of Madness is when we'll see it, but we won't know about that until March.
Well, in every single one of these universes were either so far different from ours, or they were similar, but they had little things that were different to let you know that, yeah, none of these are really the one you've been watching all this time. But I did like them.
We don't have our spoilers tag up on right now.
Whoops,
Whoopsie.
whatever. It's been out for a while.
Yeah, the
Where's the
spoiler
spoilers
embargo
thing?
is long past.
Here we go. I would say the Thor episode was probably the weakest, in my
Yeah,
opinion. I liked the finale.
but
I
then the
didn't
ending, you're like, oh shit! All right, game changer. Holy
right.
fuck!
I didn't expect them to do like a we're gonna team all these up for a double-sided finale, or a double episode finale. But it was a good finale. The only thing I was sad about was that they didn't have what's his name come back to voice Ultron. They had a guy that sounded like
James
him,
Spader.
James Spader. I would have loved for James
Yep.
Spader to come back. They got somebody that sounded enough. Like if you closed your eyes and focus, you're like, all right, that kind of sounds a lot like him.
Yeah.
They did do the Vision version of Ultron, which was cool. But yeah, all the stuff that they could do with animation was neat that you would probably not likely see on live action. So I did appreciate that.
I thought that it was interesting that they answered the question that Loki opened up around the Infinity Stones. That all the Infinity Stones that you find in all of the different multiverses, you'll realize are unique, and some of them have different cosmic aspects to them.
Right.
But at the same time, I still feel like that was such a simple explanation, is that the TVA is outside of the normal universe, and like the powers that be just aren't the way that they just don't work the way that they're supposed to when you're outside of time, you're outside of all that. And then somebody was like, well, Doctor Strange used the time stone when at the end of his film when he went to a realm without time.
That was the only thing I was waiting for this whole time with the Watcher who sees all. I was waiting for a reference to the TVA, and there wasn't any. I thought we'd get at least one little reference to that, but we didn't. But that was fine. There was enough going on.
Which makes sense if these are all offshoots that don't need to be seen in order to understand each other.
Sure.
Then it makes sense that they wouldn't include that. So I mean, so far I can see how they would you would not need to see Loki in order to understand the future films, because in Spider-Man No Way Home, we're going to come around to we're going to come into like the first aspects of the multiverse, and they're going to do quite a bit of explanation as far as all that's concerned. Sure. And then in Doctor Strange, they're probably going to be working pretty hard in order to fix what was done.
Sure.
And so who knows? The overall, like I said, I don't have a lot to say about What If. I thought it was an enjoyable experience. It wasn't a game changer for me or anything like that.
That was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a fun piece of Marvel content to hold us over until more of their films come out. The next one being Eternals.
Yeah, Eternals is on the horizon. The one complaint that I heard that I kind of got a kick out of was why they have to do Iron Man like that. Like Iron Man gets the shit end of the stick every single episode he's in. They kill him off so many times in this, or the Watcher's just like, not you, Tony Stark.
Yeah, we don't care about you.
It's like, come on, man, we miss him. Don't do him like that.
But at the same time, they're like, hey, we're gonna TVA, Eternal Celestial. Can the universe be larger than this? It can get way crazier. And we're gonna find that out in Eternals. You're gonna see what can happen. Yeah, things are going to get nutty, and I'm on board. Like, I'm loving it. It's the crazy cosmic stuff that that I really love about the Marvel universe, and
Yeah.
like all the madness that ensues. And like, I love the direction that they have done, that they have taken with a lot of it. And so I'm really excited for Eternals, because I feel like that's going to be like they're like diving in head first to the full on cosmic aspects of it. There's also news recently that in the next Guardians film, we're going to see Adam Warlock finally, and he is a very important character in the cosmic influence around the Marvel universe, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be very exciting. He's also, and all that cosmic stuff is also really important in the terms of I don't know if I want to make that leap yet, but the Fantastic Four. There's a lot of cosmic shit that goes on with them as well, at least in their more interesting storylines. And so if they're going to bring them in now, it makes sense for them to bring them in like the craziest parts of them,
Right.
then instead of bringing the Fantastic Four in, where, I mean, just think about the context of the Fantastic Four film that Fox made just recently
Mm-hmm.
in terms of its relation to, like, you got to think about the technology that the people of Earth have now witnessed, now know exists, now have access to, and
Mm-hmm.
then be like, all right, so they're still going on this crazy space mission. It's like it's like humans' first foray into it. It's like, no, like, shit's getting pretty insane in the scientific world now, because shit that scientists on Earth thought was magic,
Mm-hmm.
like, thought could only be achieved through magic. Well, now they're finding out that it's all fucking real and possible. It's like, all right, I'm really excited to see how the human race itself advances now. And in
Right.
this crazy cosmic world, it's going to be really cool to see stuff like that. And I think Eternals is going to be the first one where we see something like that, because we're going to be seeing two different universes, or two different timelines in the Eternals. We're going to see like their ancient origin, and then their modern day stuff. And this is after we've seen all of this craziness. And Shang-Chi touched on it a little bit, like, just kind of like the way that the world is now. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of craziness right now.
You know what's crazy? Um, to segue, and I know we probably don't have time to talk about this. And knowing you, you haven't even seen this, but I just realized that
Okay.
we
Why you hurt
haven't
me?
we haven't talked about this yet.
Yeah, Let There Be Carnage.
Did you see
I've not
this?
seen it. I have not seen it yet. No.
Because so it's not contradicting everything you said, but when we were talking about Marvel, there's things that happens in this movie that we really need to talk about. Uh, not in the movie proper. I actually despised this movie so much. I thought they treated Carnage so terribly. I really hate this movie. But there's something that happens in the end credit scene that man, I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's just things going on right now that I want to talk to you about.
I've I've heard some shit that the
But you
that
haven't watched it.
that no, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard some stuff that there's some interesting things to be seen in that world. But yeah, I
Mhm.
don't have the time to jump into that yet. I do need to go and see it.
Well, you need to see it. We'll do a late review on it,
Okay.
and then we'll pair that up with Tom Holland's recent comments, which sounds like he's
Yeah.
preparing to not return to this role, or
He says that
in
he's
the
not
least bit,
sure that it's going to be in the same way that it exists today.
he's
Oh,
which sounds like might not be in the MCU anymore, might just be a Sony franchise. He's calling No Way Home a franchise or trilogy ender in terms of the Homecoming. He's called it a franchise ender, and he's called it a trilogy ender, and that if they come back, well, don't spoil it, Jeffrey, because I'm sure Seth has not seen it yet. But if they come back, it's going to be different. So I'm wondering if he's bracing to exit the MCU as well, which might be the way. You know, I could see them. I could see that naturally happening in the story if the whole thing is telling Doctor Strange nobody can know that I'm Spider-Man. maybe it ends in Doctor Strange having to kick him out of the universe, like to a different dimension, and then that's how they transition him back to Sony,
I
which
mean,
would be
that is
sad.
how they. That is. I mean, it's called No Way Home, so you kind of got to wonder
And you know Sony ain't giving this
what
shit
that's
up.
gonna mean.
Like they're
No,
going
Disney's
full throttle.
trying. Disney's trying. That came out too. That they were trying to find a way to. They
Well,
were trying to
if
find a way
Disney's
to
smart,
gain ownership over that.
if Disney's smart, they don't want anything to do with this because I don't want to. I don't want to like preform your opinions, but I freaking hated this film. I had granted I probably set myself up with too many hopes and dreams, but Carnage is a favorite of mine. He is a classic and he is a psycho. And you go back to, Carnage, the classic comics, to the Maximum Carnage comics. He is a psycho. He is a serial killer. He is Cletus Cassidy, the most effed up person you can think of. I've got the original novels too that just go into graphic detail about how he just loves dismembering and fucking up people because he can. And we don't need a backstory for him. We don't need a sympathetic backstory for him. We don't need a love interest for him. We just need Cletus Cassidy. And I was fine with the casting, but I hated the movie. So I'm interested to see what you think. You need to watch that so we can talk about it.
Well, I'm gonna dive into that, but for now, I think this is a good place to call it for this episode.
What is this? Do you think
No
No
Way
Way
Home will
Home
be
will
the
be the first movie to break the 100 million on opening weekend this year?
Oh yeah,
Cause yeah, what did Venom didn't break it? Was Venom in the 80s? See, opening weekend box office because they were close. They beat out Shang-Chi and everybody else. What was the opening
Venom
weekend?
2 has 9.26 million after 5 days of release. Wait, that can't be right.
They had a 90.1 million opening weekend at the domestic box office. That was a 3-day weekend
Where the
for
hell did they
Venom
get
2.
this? Where did they get this?
I'm
Okay,
looking at
this is
the
for
same thing.
for
Yeah.
Korea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Hollywood Reporter says that it had a 90 million opening weekend. So man, that was close. So No Way Home. I know.
I mean, we're talking about
That's just
Spider-Man.
me. I'm just an
That's
asshole. I'm just an asshole with expectations. But
if there's a powerhouse franchise that's got the draw, it would be Spider-Man.
it would be Spider-Man. I could see it happening. I could see it, especially with all the expectations people think is going to be in the movie. I don't think all of those expectations are going to come true, but I think it's got the power. I wish Dune would be the first one to do it, but it's not. It's not.
I don't think Dune marketed well enough for that. I just don't think they did it.
It's done bonkers overseas, and hopefully that helps it because HBO is or Warner Brothers is committed to a sequel if it does well on HBO Max. And I don't know what kind of bar that is, but
Well, and we won't
I've
find
got
out
tickets
because
to
they
see it
never
on
reveal their
Thursday.
numbers on shit like that.
Right. I've got tickets to see it on Thursday. I'm excited, but yeah, knowing how amazing Bond was, and even that had a lackluster debut. If there's any film this year that could do it, it's Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah.
I would bet money on it happening because it comes out like Christmas weekend, doesn't it? Or in December?
December 17th.
Yeah. So that's
So,
I mean, that's your
right at the
that's your
smack
big
dab
one.
beginning of like all the kids, all the schools, holiday vacations, all that.
Yeah,
that's gonna be big.
gonna do so crazy. I could easily see it happening. So yeah.
Well, I mean, time will tell, but I'm pretty sure
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be in there. Eternals isn't gonna do it.
Yeah, I don't see
Unfortunately,
Eternals do it. I don't see
Eternals isn't
Eternals.
gonna get there.
I don't see Eternals bombing, but you're talking about a series that hasn't been marketed that well, a movie that hasn't been marketed that well. I don't
No,
think Eternals has either. Eternals looks, and they've been trying so hard. I've seen some of their recent trailers pulling in scenes from in-game. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you can hear my dogs, but they're going crazy downstairs.
yeah,
They pulled in a lot of scenes from in-game and Infinity War like trying to like connect them, and it's like they don't feel connected. You can put all the scenes with Angelina Jolie talking over them. It doesn't make it feel connected.
Oh, their
I'm sure
biggest,
it'll be good.
the
But
biggest question that they have to, the biggest question that just about every already established superhero, like if they existed in the cinematic world at all, the biggest question that they're gonna have to answer is why weren't you helping out with the Infinity War, or like why haven't you helped out with any of the other disasters that have been there? That's gonna be the big problem. Everybody's gonna have an origin story of some kind, but like I said, I think this is a good place to wrap this one up.
I think so too.
Hit the like button if you liked this episode, Nerf Herders. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. It depends on what platform you're on. I don't know if there's a dislike button on Twitch. I don't think there is. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube, wherever you decide to watch live to catch our show so you don't miss out on future content. Our revival is on point. Like we are coming back. I am bringing some new content. I've cleared my schedule to bring more to the Nerf Herders Assemble world so we can continue to entertain you guys from here on out. And we've got trailers coming out. There's trailers coming out. There's new movies coming out. So you'll see
We got
trailer
movies
reactions
coming out. October's been a packed month of movies. I mean,
Yeah,
you got a lot in your schedule, Seth. You better clear some time for the theater because there's so many movies out now. They're finally coming.
I closed out so many streaming service subscriptions. I got to start them all fucking right back up again. Follow us. Make sure you don't miss out on future content. Check us out for trailer reactions. The Batman trailer reaction is up on YouTube right now. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for subscribing. And until next time, have a good one.
See ya.
Later.